If anything happens to me, promise you'll take care of Lily. That's the first thing I heard when I picked up the phone. No hello. No explanation. Just those words, shaken, whispered, and drenched in fear. And it wasn't my wife calling. It was Erica. My mistress. The woman I was only supposed to see twice a month, in stolen weekends and dimly lit hotel rooms, far from the life I'd built with my wife, Sarah, and our two beautiful kids. I froze in the doorway of my office. My hand clutched the phone tighter as I looked over at the framed photo on my desk, Sarah and me at the lake, arms around each other, the kids throwing pebbles into the water behind us. I cleared my throat. What's going on? I'm at Mercy Hospital, Erica said. They just found something. It's bad, Josh. It's really bad. My stomach turned. I'd never heard her sound like that before. She was always the confident one, the fire I let myself get burned by, the woman who reminded me I was still alive, still wanted. But now she sounded like she was about to fall apart. I didn't sleep that night. Sarah noticed, of course. She always does. She reached out, brushing my arm under the sheets. Is everything okay? She asked softly. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to turn and hold her like I used to. But my chest was tight, my brain spinning. Instead, I forced a smile and lied. Work stuff. She sighed, disappointed, but didn't press. That's what hurt the most, she trusted me. Even now. The next morning, I drove to Mercy Hospital. I told Sarah I had a client meeting downtown. When I walked into the hospital room, Erica looked like a shadow of herself, pale, tubes in her arm, dark circles under her eyes. She reached for my hand the moment she saw me. They said it's my gallbladder. Infected. Complicated. They need to operate today. My voice cracked. Okay, that's manageable, right? It's not covered by my insurance, Josh. I let it lapse. Between rent and everything else, I couldn't keep up. They won't do the surgery unless I put something down. $15,000. They said maybe less if I signed something, but... She stopped talking. Her eyes searched mine, and the question was clear before she asked it out loud. Can you help me? $15,000. That's what saving her life would cost. I had the money. Not in cash, but Sarah and I shared a savings account. We'd been building it slowly over the past few years, for the kids' school, maybe a house upgrade in a year or two. But Erica could die. I sat in my car outside the hospital for nearly an hour, staring at the steering wheel, cursing myself for getting into this mess. I told myself this was temporary. That it was just for a little fun. I told myself I loved Sarah and always would. But here I was, about to lie to her again. I drove home. She was sitting at the kitchen table, helping our daughter Madison with math homework. She smiled when I came in, even though I could see she was tired. I couldn't meet her eyes. After dinner, I sat her down. I got a call today, I began. From someone I used to know, from school. She put her fork down and listened. I hated how easily the lie rolled off my tongue. She's sick. She needs surgery. She doesn't have anyone else. Sarah's brow furrowed. You mean like an old friend? Yeah. We weren't close or anything. We used to talk. And she found me online a few months ago. I didn't think anything of it at the time. I could tell she was surprised, but not suspicious. Just confused. She asked you for help? No, I said quickly. I offered. She didn't ask. But she's scared. I couldn't just turn away. There was a long pause. Sarah looked down at her hands, then back up at me. Her voice was quiet. How much are you thinking? $15,000. Just enough to get her the surgery. I'll pay it back to the account over time. She stared at me, really stared, and for a second I thought I saw something shift in her expression. But then she nodded. I'll do the transfer. Just like that. No accusations. No yelling. Just trust. God, I felt sick. That night, I held her in bed. She didn't say much. I could feel something had changed, but I didn't know what. Maybe I underestimated her. Or maybe I'd simply never realized how much she saw. The next morning, I went back to the hospital and paid for Erica's surgery. She cried when I told her. "You're my angel," she whispered. "You saved me." But I didn't feel like anyone's angel. I felt like a coward. A selfish one. Erica was wheeled off that afternoon. I stayed in the waiting room, pretending this wasn't happening. Trying not to think about what I was risking. A nurse called me in when the operation was over. It went well. She'd need a few days of rest, but she was going to be okay. Relief hit me so hard I had to sit down. But then I saw the text. From Sarah. One line. She called me. My stomach dropped. My hands went cold. I opened the message, reread it. She called me. I didn't understand. I hadn't given Erica our home number. Our lives were separate. They were supposed to be. But Sarah, she knew. I ran out of the hospital, fumbled with my keys, got into the car. Called her. No answer. I tried again. Voicemail. I sped home, the worst-case scenarios playing out in my head. Was she packing? Were the kids there? What had Erica said? When I finally walked through the front door, the house was quiet. Too quiet. Then I saw it. A note on the kitchen table. Written in Sarah's neat, calm handwriting. I knew. I knew for weeks. I just wanted to see if you'd tell me the truth. You didn't. I gave you the money because I'm not heartless. But I can't live with someone who lies with such ease. Don't contact me for a few days. The kids are safe. We need space. All of us. My legs gave out and I sat on the floor. She knew. She knew, and still helped me. And now. I might have lost everything. I didn't move from the floor for at least an hour. The house was still. But not in a peaceful way, the kind of stillness that hums with absence. No soft cartoons playing in the background. No footsteps upstairs. No sound of Sarah humming while folding laundry. Just silence. It echoed. And I couldn't stop staring at the note on the table. I knew for weeks. Those words hit harder than I thought they would. I always imagined the worst part of being caught would be the confrontation, the screaming, the rage. But Sarah hadn't done any of that. She just left. And somehow, that hurt more. I stood up slowly, my back aching from sitting in one spot too long, and wandered through the rooms like a ghost. Our daughter's room was still messy, clothes on the bed, stuffed animals tossed onto the floor. The scent of bubblegum shampoo lingered. In our bedroom, the closet door was open. Her side was mostly empty. She hadn't packed everything, just the essentials. That scared me. Because it meant she hadn't made a final decision yet. She hadn't slammed the door shut, but she hadn't left it wide open either. I had no idea which way she was leaning. The next day, I went to work like a zombie. I sat through 2 meetings without hearing a word. People asked if I was sick, I nodded and said I had a rough night. Rough night. That was the understatement of my life. At lunch, I drove to the hospital. Erica was sitting up in bed, sipping juice through a straw. Her cheeks had more color. She smiled the moment she saw me. I felt nothing. Not love. Not hate. Just a cold, distant numbness. "You okay?" she asked. I sat down beside her, trying to figure out what to say. "She called my wife," I finally said. Erica's smile dropped. "What? You told her?" "Or, someone did. I don't know how, but she knew. She's gone. Took the kids." "I didn't call her," she said quickly. "I swear, Josh. I'd never." "Then how did she find out?" "I don't know. Maybe she saw something, or maybe you said something by accident." I didn't reply. I just looked at her. For the first time, really looked. Erica had always represented escape for me. Freedom. Passion. The part of me that felt alive after years of diapers, homework help, and minivan errands. But now she just looked small. I need to fix this, I said, standing up. Erica reached out, grabbing my wrist. What does that mean? It means I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I tried texting Sarah. I kept it simple. Me, please, can we talk? No reply. The next morning, I tried again. Me, you're right. I should have told you. I messed up. I'm sorry. Still nothing. That night, I drove by her sister's house, where I suspected she might be staying, but the lights were off, and I wasn't about to show up at the door like some lunatic. So I went back home, back to the quiet, empty rooms. And I thought. You know what's funny? I never intended for any of this to happen. I wasn't looking to cheat. I wasn't unhappy. I loved Sarah. I loved our kids. I had a life people envied. Then I met Erica at a work conference in Chicago. She was magnetic, funny, smart, a little wild. She made me feel like I was 20 again. Like I still had a spark in me. We talked. Then we texted. Then it snowballed into hotel rooms and secrets and calendars marked with lies. I told myself I had control. But you can't juggle two lives forever without something falling. A few days later, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Sarah. Her voice was calm. Too calm. We need to talk. Tomorrow. Just us. My heart pounded. Of course. Wherever you want. Coffee house on 6th. Noon. She hung up. The next day, I got there 15 minutes early. I sat by the window, watching every car that passed, every door that opened. When she finally walked in, I stood. She looked tired. And beautiful. Like someone who'd cried behind closed doors but refused to let the world see it. She sat across from me, folded her hands, and didn't speak. I cleared my throat. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I need you to hear me say it. She nodded slightly. I believe that you're sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. I was selfish. I didn't think it through. She held up a hand. Josh, I don't want to hear excuses. I want to understand why. That's all. I exhaled slowly. She made me feel like I wasn't invisible. Like I was still exciting. With you, I felt like a dad. A provider. I felt needed but not wanted. With her, it was different. I didn't love her. I loved the feeling. Her eyes didn't flinch. Do you still love me? The question hung there like a noose. Yes, I whispered. Absolutely. And if I hadn't found out, would it have continued? Silence. I don't know, I admitted. Probably. And I hate myself for that. She looked away, blinking quickly. You know the hardest part? It's not the cheating. It's that you lied to my face while I was looking at you with love. It makes me question everything. Every memory. Every I love you. Was it real? It was, I said. All of it. You and the kids, you're my life. She stood. I panicked. Wait, please. Don't go. What do I need to do? She looked down at me with tears brimming in her eyes. I gave you the money because I didn't want her to die. That's the kind of person I am. But don't confuse that with forgiveness. I nodded. My throat tightened. I'll stay at my sister's a few more days. I don't want the kids to see us like this. Do I have a chance? I asked quietly. To fix us? She stared at me. I don't know. That's the honest answer. And then she left. That night, I sat in the kids' room. I picked up a small plush bear, my son's favorite, and held it to my chest like it could somehow keep me grounded. This was the bed I used to tuck him into. The room I painted with Sarah while we laughed about baby names and fought over colors. It didn't feel like my home anymore. It felt like a museum of all the things I took for granted. I looked around, and the weight of what I'd done finally crushed me. The next morning, I got another text. But not from Sarah. It was Erica. I miss you. Can we talk? When I read Erica's message, I miss you. Can we talk? I stared at it for a long time. It wasn't a complicated text. Just 7 words. But they hit like a punch to the chest. Because I knew I shouldn't reply. I knew what I should do. But I didn't. Instead, I sat on the edge of my son's bed, clutching the stuffed bear tighter, my thumb hovering over the screen like it had a will of its own. I hadn't seen Erica since the coffee shop meeting with Sarah. I hadn't even thought about her, not really. Not since everything exploded. But now she was back in my inbox. And part of me, the same selfish, lost part that started this whole mess, felt that old pull again. So I typed out a response. Me, I don't think that's a good idea. And then I stared at it. And deleted it. I wrote again. Me, how are you feeling? I hit send. And just like that, I opened the door again. She replied quickly. Erica, getting stronger. Still tired. But thinking about you. She followed that with a heart emoji. I didn't respond right away. I told myself I'd leave it there. Just one polite check-in. But an hour later, she sent another message. Erica, can you come by? I just need to see you. Just to talk. Please. I read it 3 times. The drive to her apartment felt surreal. I wasn't even sure why I was doing it. Guilt? Curiosity? Or something worse? Her apartment smelled like lavender and orange peels. She was curled up on the couch, a blanket draped over her lap, her face pale but smiling. Hi, she said softly. I stood awkwardly in the doorway. I can't stay long. That's okay, she replied. I just wanted to thank you. For everything. You saved my life. I nodded, trying not to meet her eyes. I'm glad you're okay. She reached out, her hand brushing mine. I miss you, Josh. I know things are a mess, but I meant everything I said to you. Every night we spent together, I felt something real. I pulled my hand away. Erica, I can't. You don't have to say anything, she interrupted. Just let me finish. I let her. I know you love your wife. And I never expected you to leave her. But I also know we had something. You felt it. You can't fake that kind of connection. And now, everything's out in the open. Maybe this happened for a reason. Maybe it's time you stop pretending to be someone you're not. I shook my head slowly. No. No, this didn't happen for a reason. It happened because I made a mistake. Because I lied. To her. To myself. Her expression changed. Softer, sadder. I understand, she said finally. I just wanted to say goodbye the right way. If that's what this is. I stood in the doorway a minute longer, then turned and left. And this time, I didn't look back. Sarah still wasn't answering my texts. It had been nearly 5 days since the coffee shop conversation. 5 days of silence. Of limbo. Then, just as I was about to call again, she texted me. Sarah, I'm coming by to pick up a few more things. Be there at 5. Please don't be home. No other words. She didn't want to see me. I stood in the living room, rereading the message, hands trembling. I wanted to see her so badly. I wanted to talk. To plead. To explain again. To do something. But I respected her request. I packed a bag and left at 4:30. I drove around aimlessly for hours, through the suburbs, the park where we used to take the kids, even past the school. Everything looked the same, but felt different. I thought about the man I used to be, the husband who stayed late at soccer games, who grilled hot dogs on weekends, who brought Sarah coffee in bed on Sundays. Where had that man gone? And why did I let him disappear? When I got home around 8, the lights were on. Sarah was gone, but I could tell she'd been there. A few more clothes were missing. Some framed family photos, too. Her perfume still lingered faintly in the bedroom. But something else caught my eye, a folded note on the kitchen counter. I opened it, bracing for another goodbye. But it wasn't that. I don't know what I want yet. I don't know if I can forgive you. But the kids miss you. Madison keeps asking when you're coming back to read bedtime stories. If you want to see them, I'll be at the park Saturday. Noon. Just the kids. Not me. Not yet. I sat down at the table and let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't reconciliation. But it was something. Saturday came. I showed up to the park early, pacing the path that led to the playground. I must have checked my watch 10 times in 5 minutes. And then I saw them. Madison was running ahead, her ponytail bouncing. My son, Liam, toddled behind her, holding Sarah's sister's hand. When they spotted me, Madison squealed. "Daddy." She barreled into me like a rocket. I knelt down, hugging her tight, inhaling her scent, feeling her tiny arms squeeze my neck. "I missed you so much," she said. Liam giggled and reached for me, too. My heart shattered and healed all at once. We spent the afternoon playing. I pushed them on the swings, helped build a sandcastle, and listened as Madison told me all about her class pet hamster. But there was one moment that stayed with me. She looked up from the slide and asked, "Why did Mommy leave the house?" I froze. I made a mistake," I said gently. "And Mommy needed some time." She frowned. "Did you break a rule?" I nodded. "Yeah. A big one." "Are you gonna say sorry?" "I already did." "Did Mommy say it's okay?" I paused. "Not yet. But I hope one day she will." She seemed to think about that for a moment, then smiled and took my hand. "That's okay. You can sit with me anyway." When Sarah picked them up later, she didn't get out of the car. She gave me a nod through the window. Not a smile. Not warmth. But not hatred either. And again, it wasn't closure. But it was something. That night, I blocked Erica's number. Deleted her texts. Her photos. The calendar reminders. All of it. I walked through the house and started picking up again, Madison's crayons, Liam's forgotten sock, the trail of a life I'd almost lost completely. And then I sat on the couch and stared at the empty seat beside me. The one Sarah used to fill. And I thought to myself, I don't know if I'll ever get her back. But I'm not giving up. Not yet. It had been 3 weeks since Sarah left. 3 weeks of silence and small steps. The kids were the only bridge between us. Every few days, I'd see them in the park, or at her sister's place. Sarah and I barely spoke, we exchanged bags, schedules, and quick nods. The words we used to share so easily now felt like fragile glass, too sharp to touch. And I missed her more with every passing day. I missed her humming in the kitchen while cooking. I missed her knowing glances across the room when the kids said something ridiculous. I even missed our arguments, at least those meant we were talking. Now, there was only space. And waiting. One night, I found myself scrolling through old photos on my phone. Christmas morning. Pumpkin patches. That beach trip where Liam ate sand and Madison cried because her seashell broke. And in every photo, Sarah, smiling. Holding our kids. Looking at me. Looking at me like she knew me. I didn't recognize the men she was looking at anymore. I started seeing a therapist. It wasn't something I'd ever planned on doing. But one morning, I looked in the mirror and realized I didn't like the men staring back. I needed help figuring out why I'd done what I did, how I let it get that far. The first session was awkward. I sat on a beige couch in a quiet office and tried to explain the story without sounding like a total monster. I love my wife, I said. But I cheated on her. And I lied. And now I don't know how to make it right. The therapist, Marla, mid-50s, calm voice, no-nonsense eyes, didn't react the way I expected. She didn't judge me. She didn't nod sympathetically either. She just said, okay. So now we figure out who you were, and who you want to be. One night, about 4 weeks after Sarah left, I got a text. Sarah, Liam has a fever. Just wanted to let you know. He's okay, just resting. I replied right away. Me, do you need anything? Medicine. Soup. A minute passed. Then another. Sarah, we're fine. He asked for you. Maybe you can FaceTime him. When that screen lit up and I saw Liam's sleepy eyes, my heart clenched. He grinned when he saw me. Hi, Daddy. His voice was soft and congested, but that smile, pure magic. Hey, buddy. You being brave? He nodded, then yawned. Sarah was in the background, adjusting his blanket. She looked tired. Worn. But still, when our eyes met through the screen, something softened in her. A window cracked open. The next day, I sent her flowers. No note. No pressure. Just lilies, her favorite, and a small card that simply said, "Thinking of you. Always." She didn't reply. But she didn't return them either. A small win. A few days later, I was cleaning out the garage when I found an old box of our wedding mementos. The guest book. Dried flowers. Even the vows we'd written and never read out loud because we were too emotional that day. I sat on the floor and read mine. I promise to be your truth in a world full of noise. I promise to never hide from you, even when it's hard. I promise to choose you, again and again, without question. I broke all three. No wonder she left. I wanted to talk to her. To say all of this. To admit that I was unraveling without her. But I knew I couldn't push her. So instead, I kept showing up for the kids. I brought snacks. I read bedtime stories over FaceTime. I helped with Madison's book report from a distance. And every time I dropped them off, I looked at Sarah and hoped she'd say something more than thanks or they ate already. Finally, one Friday evening, she did. Can you come in for a minute? I blinked. Of course. The kids were watching a movie. The house smelled like popcorn and cinnamon. She led me to the kitchen. We stood in the same spot where I used to kiss her goodnight, and she used to steal bites of cookie dough before baking. I read your card, she said. And I appreciate the flowers. I waited. I've been thinking a lot, she continued. About forgiveness. About what it means. She paused, then looked me straight in the eyes. I don't know if I can forgive you, Josh. But I also don't know if I'm ready to throw everything away. My breath caught. I don't expect you to forgive me overnight. Or at all. I just want to be honest with you now. About everything. She leaned back against the counter. Then tell me something you haven't yet. I swallowed hard. There were moments, with her, when I forgot what mattered. I told myself lies to make it feel okay. But the second you found out, the second I saw your note on the table, it was like waking up from a dream I didn't know I was having. Her voice cracked. Do you regret it? I regret not talking to you. Not asking for help. Not saying, I feel invisible, instead of trying to fix it with someone else. She nodded slowly. Then silence. The kind where two people are standing on the edge of something, not knowing whether to fall or build a bridge. Finally, she said, I want to try therapy. Together. If we're going to do this. I need help. And so do you. I nodded, too quickly. Yes. Anything. I'll go with you. It doesn't mean we're fixed, she added. I know. It doesn't mean I'm moving back tomorrow. I wouldn't expect that. But it means I'm not done trying yet. That's when I broke. Tears hit my cheeks before I could stop them. I wiped my face and let out a shaky breath. Thank you. She didn't touch me. Didn't smile. But she looked at me like she was seeing me again. And that was enough, for now. That weekend, we took the kids to the zoo together. No big announcement. No holding hands. Just two parents walking side by side, trying to remember how to exist in the same space. And at one point, Madison reached for both our hands at once, her left in Sarah's, her right in mine. We looked at each other over her head. And in that second, I saw something I hadn't seen in a long time. Hope. Later that night, after she dropped the kids off at her sister's for a sleepover, Sarah sent me a message. "Sarah, thank you for today." It felt almost normal. I replied. It did. I missed normal. She sent one more line. "Sarah, therapy Tuesday at 6. I'll pick the place." And just when I thought the story might be turning a corner, the past came knocking again. Literally. There was a knock on my front door. I opened it, expecting a neighbor or a delivery. But it was Erica. I stood frozen in the doorway. Erica. Hair tied back in a messy bun, hoodie zipped up to her chin, and eyes rimmed with dark circles. She looked worn down but determined. Her presence hit me like a gust of cold air. "What are you doing here?" I asked, keeping my voice low. She gave a small, nervous shrug. "I was in the area. I needed to see you." I looked past her instinctively, like maybe someone, Sarah, might pull into the driveway any second. My stomach twisted. "You shouldn't be here." "I know," she whispered. "Can I come in?" "Just for a minute." I hesitated. For a moment, I imagined how it might look if Sarah found out Erica had come here. If the neighbors saw. If I let her in. But I stepped aside anyway. 1 minute. That's what I told myself. She walked slowly into the living room, her eyes scanning the walls, the couch, the pictures of my kids on the shelf. She'd never been inside my home before. It felt wrong having her here, like I was violating something sacred. "It's warm," she said, arms crossed over her chest. I pictured it colder. Sterile. Guess that's my own guilt talking. I didn't answer. She turned to face me. "I didn't come here to make things worse. I heard from someone that you and Sarah were talking again. That she took the kids to the zoo with you." I stiffened. "Who told you that?" "A friend of mine who works at the hospital. She saw you there last week with the kids." I exhaled. "So you're keeping tabs on me now?" "No," she said quickly. "I swear. I miss you." I sat down, more from exhaustion than anything. "Erica, please. You know this has to stop." She bit her lip, then nodded slowly. "I know. I do. And I'm not here to beg you to come back to me." "Good. Because I'm not going to." Her eyes glistened. "But I am here to tell you I'm leaving town. For good. My lease is up next week, and I got a job offer in Oregon. I think it's time I start over." A strange weight lifted off my chest at her words, but it was tangled in guilt. "I'm glad," I said. "I think that's the right choice. I wanted to tell you in person," she continued, "because no matter what else happened, part of me really did love you, Josh. Maybe I wasn't supposed to. But I did." I looked away. "I don't think I ever loved you, Erica. I think I loved the version of myself I got to be when I was with you. That's not the same." She smiled, but it was a sad one. "Yeah. I figured." We sat in silence for a moment before she stood. "I hope it works out with Sarah. I really do. She seems like a good woman." "She is." Erica nodded and headed toward the door. She paused before opening it, then glanced back one last time. "Goodbye, Josh." And then she was gone. I sat there, staring at the door, trying to figure out what I was feeling. Relief. Closure. Guilt. Maybe all of it. But mostly, I felt like I'd just closed the last open window to my old life, and for once, I didn't miss the breeze. Tuesday came faster than I expected. I arrived at the therapist's office 10 minutes early. Sarah was already there, sitting in the waiting room with her coat folded in her lap. She gave me a small nod when I walked in, not quite warm, but not cold either. We sat together in that beige room again, only this time, it wasn't just my guilt echoing off the walls. Sarah had her own hurt to unpack. Her own questions. Marla, our therapist, began by asking us to define what we each wanted from this process. I said, I want to rebuild what I broke. If I can. Sarah said, I want clarity. I want to know if trust can be repaired, or if I'm holding on to something already gone. And then we started. The hard part. The honest part. Week after week, we met. Talked. Fought. Dug up things that had been buried for years. Not just the affair, but the silence, the routines, the parts of us that had drifted while we were busy being parents, workers, tired adults who passed each other like ships in the night. Sarah cried once during a session. It broke me. I asked myself every day, she said through tears, what did I do wrong? Why wasn't I enough? I reached for her hand, but she pulled away gently. It wasn't you, I said. It was me. I didn't know how to say I was struggling. I didn't give you the chance to help. I took the coward's route instead. Her voice was quiet. You had choices. You chose her. I chose wrong, I whispered. And I'll regret that for the rest of my life. She didn't respond. But she didn't leave, either. One night, weeks later, I was tucking Madison into bed during one of my custody nights. She reached up, brushing her fingers along my cheek. Mommy smiles more when you're around, she said. I paused. Yeah. She nodded. She said she doesn't know if we'll all live in the same house again, but she likes talking to you now. I kissed her forehead and turned off the light, heart aching. Madison was right. We were talking again. We were something again. But I knew better than to rush it. Then one Sunday morning, while I was making pancakes for the kids, there was a knock at the door. Not Erica this time. It was Sarah. In sweatpants and a hoodie, hair pulled back. No makeup. Just her. Hey, she said. Hey. She stepped inside and looked around. Smells good. Banana pancakes, I said. Your favorite. She gave a tiny smile. Can we talk? I nodded, turned off the stove, and followed her into the living room. She sat on the couch, looked down at her hands, then back at me. I'm not ready to move back. But I think I'm ready to forgive. I couldn't speak. She continued. I've seen you change, Josh. Not just what you say, but how you act. The therapy. The consistency. You showing up for the kids without excuses. You didn't try to win me back. You just tried to be better. And that's what I needed to see. I sat beside her. I'll never be the same person again, I said quietly. I wish I could go back. Erase it. But I can't. All I can do is prove I'm someone you can trust now. I know, she whispered. And then, after all those weeks of distance, tears, anger, she leaned into me. Not a kiss. Not a promise. Just a quiet moment of closeness. That night, we all had dinner together. Sarah. The kids. Me. It felt fragile, like something made of paper, but it held. And when Madison asked, "Is Mommy staying tonight?" Sarah looked at me. Then she looked at her daughter. Not tonight, sweetie. But maybe soon. And that was enough. For now. 3 words. Maybe soon. That's all Sarah said that night when Madison asked if she was staying over. And yet, those words sat with me like an ember in the cold, small, quiet, but alive. It wasn't a promise. It wasn't a guarantee. But it was the closest we'd been in months. After she left that night, I cleaned up dinner alone. I scrubbed plates, packed up leftovers, and wiped down the counters like it all meant something more than just chores. It did. It meant she'd eaten here. With us. Again. Therapy continued. We still went every Tuesday. And each session was different. Some weeks we made progress, real, visible steps forward. Other weeks were harder, slower. Sometimes she looked at me with the same warmth I remembered. Other times, with walls in her eyes I couldn't see past. But we kept showing up. That mattered. One session, Marla asked us, "What scares you most about staying together?" Sarah went quiet for a long time. Then she said, "That I'll forgive him, and he'll do it again." I didn't breathe. I didn't move. Then she looked at me and added, and that I'll never feel safe with him again. I wanted to tell her that I wouldn't do it again. That I'd changed. That I was different. But instead, I said the truth. I can't erase what I did. I can only be the kind of man now who would never risk losing you again. And I want to spend the rest of my life proving that to you. She didn't respond. But she nodded. Over the next few weeks, Sarah started staying longer after dropping off the kids. Sometimes she'd sit and have coffee. Other times she'd help them with homework at our kitchen table. Once, I found her laughing with Liam in the living room while he wrapped a toy dinosaur in a paper towel blanket. It felt almost normal. Almost. But we still hadn't talked about us. About what we were, what we might be. We just coexisted with quiet affection and caution. Until one evening changed that. It was a Friday. I had the kids for the weekend, and Sarah came by to drop off Madison's forgotten stuffed bunny. She was in a hurry, keys still in hand, hair tied up, phone buzzing in her purse. "I'll just run it in," she said. I nodded. "Want to stay for a bit?" She hesitated. Then sighed. 10 minutes. The kids were upstairs watching a movie. I poured her tea. She leaned against the counter, blowing on it as the silence between us stretched. Then she said, "I got a job offer." I turned. "Yeah. 2 towns over. Better pay. More flexible hours." "That's great." She didn't smile. "But it means I'd have to move. Even if it's temporary." My throat tightened. "How far is it?" 45 minutes. Too far for school. Too far for shared custody without rearranging everything. It hit me like a hammer. "Are you thinking about taking it?" "I don't know," she said. "It's a fresh start. But it's also away from everything familiar." "From me," I said. She didn't deny it. "I'm not trying to guilt you," I added. "But I can't pretend that doesn't scare me." She finally looked at me. "I want to believe you've changed, Josh. I really do. But this offer made me realize something. I don't know who I am outside of being your wife and their mother." I nodded slowly. "Maybe it's okay to find that out." She tilted her head, surprised. "You'd be okay with me going?" "No," I said honestly. "But I'd be okay with you figuring out what you need. Even if that means I wait." Her eyes softened. "You'd really wait? As long as it takes." She didn't leave that night. But she sat down on the couch, and we talked for hours after the kids went to bed. Not about the past. About everything else. Dreams. Fears. Little things we'd forgotten to ask each other for years. It felt like we were dating again, only this time, we knew the cost of silence. At one point, she rested her head on my shoulder. And I didn't dare move. A week later, she told me she turned down the job. "I realized I don't need to move to start over," she said. "I just need to be honest about what I want. And what I want is to take this slow, but not from a distance." We started dating again. Seriously. Dinner once a week. Shared weekends with the kids. A new kind of courtship. With boundaries, yes. But with hope. One night, she invited me to her sister's house for dinner. As we walked out together, I stopped beside her car and said, "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you ever think about moving back in?" She smiled gently. "I do. But I want to know you're not rushing me. That you're not just trying to go back to before." "I'm not," I said. "I want to build something new. Something better." "I want that too," she said. Then she reached for my hand. But just when everything seemed to finally be falling into place, life threw us another twist. One afternoon, I got a call from a blocked number. I almost ignored it. But I answered. "Josh." I recognized the voice instantly. "Erica. What are you doing calling me?" I asked, stepping out onto the porch so Sarah wouldn't hear me inside. I didn't mean to disturb anything. I need to tell you something." My stomach clenched. "Erica, I told you." "I know. I'm not trying to pull you back into anything. But this isn't about us. It's about me. I stayed silent. She continued. I'm pregnant. I stopped breathing. And before you say anything, she rushed on, I'm not asking you for help. I don't want anything from you. I just thought you had a right to know. My mind went blank. Are you sure? I finally asked. Yes. I'm 8 weeks. It's yours. I sat down on the porch steps, the world spinning around me. I don't expect anything, she said again. But I'm keeping it. And then she hung up. Just like that. No discussion. No next steps. Just the truth. A new truth. The door opened behind me. Sarah stepped out, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Everything okay? I looked up at her. My wife, the woman I was finally winning back. The mother of my children. The person I still wanted more than anything. And in that moment, I knew something was about to break. Again. Because I couldn't lie to her anymore. Not now. Not after everything. I need to tell you something, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. She tilted her head, sensing the shift instantly. What is it? I opened my mouth. But the words caught in my throat. I need to tell you something, I said, my voice hollow, like it had already given up before the words even left my mouth. Sarah stood on the porch beside me, the cool evening breeze tugging gently at her sweater. She narrowed her eyes, reading my face like a language she'd learned long ago but never wanted to use again. What is it? She asked, slowly this time. My heart raced. Everything I'd worked for, every therapy session, every honest word, every act of patience and humility, balanced on the edge of this moment. I looked at her and said the words I'd been terrified to say. Erica called me today. She's pregnant. Her face didn't move at first. No gasp. No shout. Just stillness. She blinked, once. Twice. Her lips parted, then pressed shut again. After a long pause, she asked quietly, is it yours? I nodded. She says it is. 8 weeks. Sarah turned away from me and leaned on the porch railing. I could hear her breathing, sharp, controlled. Like she was holding back a wave she didn't want to drown in. I told her I didn't want anything from her, I said quickly. And she said the same. She's not asking for money. Or contact. She just wanted me to know. Still, Sarah said nothing. I didn't cheat again, I added. It was before. Before any of this got better. She finally turned to face me, her eyes glassy but steady. You know what hurts the most, she whispered. It's not even the baby. It's that I was just starting to trust you again. And now. I don't know where we stand. I understand. I don't think you do, she said, a sudden edge in her voice. We were rebuilding. We were almost there. And now you're connected to her forever. My stomach churned. I don't want a life with her. I never did. This wasn't planned. She cut me off. That doesn't matter. This child exists now. And whatever you feel, whatever I feel, this changes everything. I sat back down on the porch steps, feeling the weight settle over me like wet cement. I didn't want to hide it from you, I said. That's the only difference between who I was then and who I am now. I told you the truth. Sarah's eyes welled with tears, but none fell. I need time, she said, voice quiet. And space. Again. I nodded. Of course. She turned to go inside, then paused. Josh. Yeah. Are you going to be involved? With the baby? It was the question I'd been avoiding. I looked up at her, then back at the darkening sky. I don't know. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling, listening to the refrigerator hum and the clock tick like it was counting down to something I couldn't escape. I thought about the baby. A child. My child. Possibly. Would it have my eyes? Erica's hair? Would they grow up never knowing me, or worse, resenting me? Would I be the father who disappeared from one life while trying to repair another? And then I thought about Sarah. About Liam. Madison. My family. How do you hold on to one without destroying the other? The next morning, I called Erica. I need a paternity test, I said bluntly. Before anything else. There was a long pause. Okay, she said. I figured you'd ask. I already made the appointment. Next week. And if it's mine? Another pause. Then, I'm not looking to ruin your life, Josh. I made peace with raising this baby alone if I had to. But if it's yours, I want them to know who their father is. At least have the option. I said nothing. She sighed. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. For everything. And for once, I believed her. I told Sarah about the test. She nodded, stiffly, and thanked me for being honest. But we didn't speak much that week. The air between us was different again, cautious, brittle. Like we were back to square one, where every look and word had to be measured. I missed her, even when she was standing in the same room. The results came a week later. It was mine. 98% probability. I sat in my car for almost an hour with the envelope open on my lap. The words blurred. The numbers blurred. But the meaning was sharp and unmistakable. I was going to be a father. Again. To a child I'd never planned for. That night, I asked Sarah if we could talk. We sat at her kitchen table, the kids already asleep upstairs. I got the results, I said. It's mine. She nodded. I figured. I still want to be with you, I said. I still love you. That hasn't changed. Her voice was calm. But now there's a baby. And a mother. And a life outside of this house. I know. So what do you plan to do? I hesitated. Then I answered. I plan to be honest. With everyone. Including that child. I can't walk away. But I also won't walk away from you, or the kids we already have. I want to try. If you'll let me. She looked at me for a long time. Then she asked, can you love two children from two homes without breaking everything in between? I don't know, I admitted. But I want to find out. With you. Tears filled her eyes. I don't know if I can live with this, Josh. With her always in the background. She won't be, I said. This won't be a triangle. It'll be a boundary. We can build a life that includes truth, but not chaos. Sarah stared at the table. I don't have an answer for you yet. I know. But I don't want to give up, either. Hope stirred again. Small, fragile. I reached across the table and gently took her hand. She didn't pull away. A few weeks later, Sarah agreed to try family counseling, with the kids, too. To prepare them. To help them understand that life might look different, but love would still hold it all together. We didn't tell them about the baby right away. We agreed to wait until they were ready, and until we were, too. But Sarah came to dinner more often. She laughed more. And eventually, one quiet evening, she didn't leave. She tucked the kids in, came downstairs, and sat on the couch beside me. Do you ever think we'll be okay again? She asked softly. I didn't hesitate. Yes. She leaned her head against my shoulder. And for the first time in a long time, I believed it. 6 months later, the baby was born. A girl. Erica named her Grace. I visited once, quietly. No photos. No announcements. Just me and a newborn I hadn't planned for, but who looked up at me with eyes that reminded me life doesn't follow scripts. She had my eyes. And for the first time since this whole nightmare began, I didn't feel like I was falling apart. I felt like I was finally becoming whole. This isn't a fairy tale. Sarah and I still go to therapy. We still fight. We still have trust to rebuild, every single day. But we're honest now. Brutally, painfully honest. I show up for our kids. I visit Grace. I respect boundaries. And most importantly, I stopped lying. Because when everything crumbled, When I lost the love of my life and nearly lost my family, it wasn't the betrayal that nearly destroyed us. It was the lies. And the truth, as messy and complicated as it is the only thing keeping us together now. Maybe we're not the family we were before. But maybe, we're something stronger. Something real.